Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, while Kentucky may be finished with the storms, several states in the Northeast are just getting started. And the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals hears arguments about the constitutionality of a Texas law that allows state and local police to enforce immigration laws.
Plus, we stay chilly to close out the work week. Your forecast on the way as Mountain News at 5:30 starts right now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Violent storms brought widespread destruction through the middle of the country yesterday, and they are not done yet, with storm warnings in effect for several states in New England. Thousands of homes and businesses are in the dark, and others are sifting through major property damage. CBS's Dave Malkoff reports from Sunbright, Tennessee.
The severe weather outbreak left a path of destruction in parts of the Midwest.
Oh, dear Lord.
And in the South, spinning up tornadoes as it pushed across the country.
Holy!
In the town of Sunbright, Tennessee, north of Knoxville, damage is everywhere. But Alexis Hamby feels lucky her family is alive.
We really about lost our life.
With their 4-year-old in his arms, her husband Noah grabbed onto the hoodie of her sweatshirt to keep the force of the tornado from pulling her and her 6-month-old away.
He had me by the hood of my jacket, was like choking me, trying to get me in, and our neighbor grabbed all 4 of us and pulled us in his basement door.
The powerful storm spawned multiple tornadoes in Kentucky, where 1 person died in a storm-related car accident.
While we've lost 1 young man, which is again a tragedy, having no other reports of significant injuries right now is pretty incredible.
In several states, including Georgia, trees were ripped from the ground, including one that just missed this historic church.
All the damage we still count it as joy. I mean, you know, because it could have been worse. New
England residents are now facing a mix of rain and snow with the threat of rising waters and dangerous winds as the storm marches east. Dave Malkoff, CBS News, Sunbright, Tennessee.
You can see more of Dave's reporting and his conversation with Alexis Hamby and her husband tonight on the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell. Officials in Kentucky say storm damage was reported in more than 20 counties yesterday. Several counties and cities have announced disaster declarations. Kentucky Transportation Cabinet crews reported road damage in central and eastern Kentucky. And Governor Andy Beshear says cell service has now been restored in some northeastern Kentucky communities.
We have cell service that was down in Greenup, Carter, and Boyd counties. A major fiber line has been restored, and a majority of cell service is back. We believe this outage was connected to one of 2 major power lines down on interstates.
There are still more than 14,000 customers without power in Kentucky, mainly in the northeastern part of the state. After the storms comes a return of cold weather. Let's send it over to meteorologist Cameron Aaron for our first look at the forecast. Cameron.
Yes, Steve, some ugly weather continues across portions of the region as we go into this evening. Nothing severe, but we are tracking some downpours, also some chilly temperatures. Zooming into a few heavier downpours in Floyd County, not too far away from Prestonsburg, also close to Paintsville and Johnson County, and this is pushing into Pike County. So a first alert in downtown Pikeville. A few showers pushing into your direction. Also, same story for Buckhorn and Perry County, also close to Hyden for Leslie County. A few showers moving off to the north and east into your direction. And same story once again for Stanton and Powell County, moving into Menifee County. This heavier downpour close to Mount Sterling, moving into your direction. This is all thanks to a strong cold front, also an area of low pressure close to Chicago. And this weather system will bring in some more moisture, also some more cold temperatures as we go into your Thursday, also on Friday. So we could see possibly a few snowflakes or snow showers by late tonight. Also moving into early parts of your Thursday. Current temperatures for most of us in the middle to upper 40s, but a few lower 50s as well. And most of us wind up in the middle to upper 30s to wake up on Thursday. And again, watching out for some patches of wintry mix after sunset. No big impacts though, as ground temperatures, also air temperatures are above freezing. However, we stay ugly once again tomorrow as more off and on showers are likely, but some better weather is on the way for this weekend. All those details coming up in just a little bit. Steve?
Cameron, thank you. Lawyers for the government and the state of Texas were in front of an appeals court today arguing over the constitutionality of a Texas law which allows local officers to arrest and charge immigrants suspected of entering the country illegally. CBS's Skylar Henry has more from Washington.
A small group stood outside the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, protesting against Texas's controversial immigration law known as SB 4. It allows state and local officers to arrest and deport migrants suspected of entering the country illegally.
We drove like 20 hours from El Paso to get to New Orleans just to be here today.
Lawyers for Texas argued SB 4 is needed, saying migrants are overrunning the border because immigration laws are not enforced.
This is the first situation ever where a federal judge has found, as a matter of fact, that federal officers are deliberately and, quote, disingenuously not enforcing federal law.
But the Department of Justice says it does enforce the law and that the federal government is the only entity with the authority to do so.
What SB 4 says is that that person would be charged with a Texas crime brought before a Texas court. And that there's no room in the INA for that.
The case is expected to make its way to the Supreme Court, where justices will need to decide what power, if any, states have in creating their own immigration laws.
What Texas has done here is they have looked at the Supreme Court's precedent, and they have tried to develop a statute that goes up to the line of Supreme Court precedent, but allows Texas to protect the border. Now, to be fair, maybe Texas went too far.
Judges questioned the legality of the Texas law, citing a 2012 Supreme Court ruling striking Arizona's so-called Show Me Your Papers law, reaffirming the federal government's broad and undoubted power over immigration.
What are we supposed to do with Arizona? I know you say it wasn't raised, but it's on the books.
Court observers say the Texas case may allow the new, more conservative Supreme Court to revisit the ruling. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has said that he would welcome the Supreme Court taking up Senate Bill 4's fate and wants the court to overturn the 2012 decision. A thunderstorm moving through Baltimore today paused some of the salvage and recovery operations at the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse. Officials say as soon as there's a break in the weather, a crane is ready to lift a 350-ton section of the bridge. They'll also begin lifting undamaged containers off the ship's bow.
We need to lift those undamaged containers off to give us space to safely operate, to begin to plan to remove portions of the bridge that are also now embedded into the ship.
Crews have cleared and marked 2 temporary channels in the Patapsco River for commercial vessels. So far, 8 ships have passed through. Recovery teams are still trying to reach the bodies of 4 construction workers who are presumed dead after the collapse last week. President Biden is teaming up with Senator Bernie Sanders to promote his administration's efforts to lower the cost of inhalers and other health care needs. Both men touted lower health care costs that came through the Democrats' sweeping climate, health care, and tax package President Biden signed into law in 2022. The president says no one should have to pay $35 a month for insulin.
Take insulin for people with diabetes. It costs $10 to make. If you add everything in terms of packaging and all the rest, you can argue maybe $12 total. And they're charged as much as $400 a month. Not anymore. Not anymore. Seniors with diabetes will only have to pay $35 a month from this point on.
Now, this comes as the Biden re-election campaign works to contrast its health care agenda with that of Republican nominee Donald Trump. Big changes are coming to Wisconsin elections this year. Voters there have approved some new election law changes that were championed by Republicans. Private donations for elections are now banned in the state. Conservative activists argued a donation from Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg helped Democratic turnout in 2020. Wisconsin now joins more than 24 states that have banned or otherwise regulated private donations for elections. Another twist in the saga of Truth Social's public offering. Owner Trump Media and Technology Group is suing 2 of its co-founders to eliminate their stake in the company. The lawsuit claims Andy Latinsky and Wes Moss made a series of, quote, reckless and wasteful decisions when they tried to set up the company that caused significant damage. Trump media is asking the court to force them to return the 8.6 million shares they were to receive. Actor Jonathan Majors' conviction on assault and harassment charges will stand. On Monday, a judge rejected Majors' request to set aside the verdict and acquit him of the charges. The charges stem from a domestic dispute involving Majors and his former girlfriend. In December, a New York jury found him guilty of 1 count of reckless assault and a non-criminal charge of harassment. He was acquitted on aggravated harassment and an additional assault charge. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, with the Department of Transportation considering new rules requiring airlines to reimburse travelers, we'll hear from a watchdog group about what you need to know before you take off.
Plus, we are tracking some rain and snow showers through tonight. Your forecast on the way after this break.